Well guys, I'm getting an early start today. I'm going to do another MPG run. When I first picked up the truck about 2 months ago, I did a longer MPG run driving home from the dealership. It was a little over 400 miles there, and mostly highway, interstate. And so that one, the results ended up being 14.8 MPG. I'll put a card up if you didn't catch that one. And so today I figured I'd do a second one, because now the truck is broken in. The truck has just over 1,700 miles on the engine, whereas that first run it was pretty much brand new. And let's see, also the oil's been changed. First oil change was completed a couple weeks back. I'll be sharing the results of that. I sent off the oil to Blackstone Laboratories, so I'll be sharing that in a future video. And then also there's a tonneau cover on the back now. So I figured between all those different variables, today would be a better opportunity to get a more accurate MPG run on the highway. Now today's going to be a little bit shorter on the MPG run. It'll probably end up being about 180 to 190 miles before I fill up, but it's going to be mostly highway and then some interstate, so probably in the 55 to the 65 range on average. And so I've reset the trip meter so that we can look and compare the truck's computer data against when I actually fill up. Now I'm still running 87 octane on the fuel, and so I'll let you guys watch in as I do this MPG run, which, by the way, I try to work these videos in as time permits. If I've got a personal trip to make and I think it'd be interesting to document, then I'll bring the GoPro along and record it. And I was thinking, let's be honest, we don't buy these heavy-duty trucks for fuel economy, right? Or to save money at the pump. We buy the trucks because we want them to work hard and perform, especially while we're towing. And at the same time, it is interesting to see what the trucks do MPG-wise. And it's it's always kind of curious to see what others are getting. I would say I'm a pretty average driver. I don't have an extra heavy foot. I also don't think my foot's super light either, so I would say I'm pretty average the way I drive the truck. And I've gotten a better feel for the throttle and the response, with the pedal and everything now. So I'm really curious to see what the truck does today. Well, anyways, guys, it's still pretty dark outside, so I'm gonna let the sun come up, and then I'll share some more updates and initial impressions on owning the truck so far. Got a beautiful sunrise this morning, a little over halfway into my trip here. Probably got about 70 miles to go, and you can already see the trip computer is estimating 16.2 MPG, so quite a bit better than the first run that I did that showed 14.8 in the end. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the some of those variances with MPG runs, because since I published that first video, a lot of people commented, of course, and really, want to say a big thanks to everybody for your comments, because it's always helpful to me to get that feedback and hear from everybody else. But had a lot of people comment that owned either this exact truck, with the 6.6 gas engine and the 10-speed Allison, or the same engine but the 6-speed, the previous transmission. And people kind of commented and shared what their typical MPG is on the highway. And so it's really interesting. Almost everyone had results higher than what I got on that first run. And so I think, the engine was being broken in. I had a little bit of wind that day, and so that probably wasn't ideal conditions. But I was hearing numbers, 16, 16.5, 17.5, and I think the best MPG recorded was 19 miles per gallon. One of the viewers brought that to my attention. It was the TFL run that they did on pretty much this exact same truck here with the 10-speed Allison transmission. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about, why is there such a big variance with MPG results on this particular truck. And so when it comes to doing MPG runs, You know, I like to think of it almost like when you do a survey. We're headed into an election year, and so there's lots of polls going on right now with different candidates. And so when they do those surveys, obviously they can't ask every single voter, you know, who they're going to vote for. They take a sample of the population. And so some of the factors that go into that are how large of a sample size, you know, how many people do they poll? But then beyond that, it's not just the sheer number, it's the people that they poll, are they representative of the entire population, or at least the population that they're trying to get a result from. And so it's kind of similar with MPG tests. You know, the longer the range of my MPG test, the longer that I go, probably the more accurate the results are going to be. But then also when it comes to MPG runs, if the run that I'm doing currently is not representative of a typical highway run for me, then the results may be a little bit skewed. And what I mean by that is, you know, flat ground versus lots of hills and mountains, or maybe you've got a gradual descent where you're going downhill mostly in terms of elevation. This run, I think, is pretty average. You know, I've encountered a few sections where there's some steeper grades going up and down, but overall it's been pretty average. And so hopefully this will reflect a pretty typical MPG run when you're, you know, at highway speeds. And to demonstrate that further, let me show you the MPG computer on the truck here. You know, GM's got a pretty neat feature where it's constantly tracking your best MPG over a set distance. So you can see right now I've got mine set to 50 miles. And so the best MPG that I've gotten over a 50-mile run, you can see there is 17.5. Compare that to the average 16.1. But watch this, if I go into the distance here and I change it to 25 miles shorter, you can see best is 19.1, right? So I could say, well, hey, the best MPG I've gotten on the truck is 19.1, but if I don't say what that, you know, distance is, it could be a little bit misleading. Now watch what happens when I take it up to 450 miles. Then you can see the best is 14.7, and that's pretty close to what I got on that first MPG run driving the truck home from the dealer. So the point I'm trying to make is, you know, when it comes to MPG runs, you've got the distance, how long you've done the MPG run, that factors into how accurate it is. But then you also have to make sure the roads, the terrain that you're driving on is representative of a typical run for you. Well, let me talk about a few other updates after owning the truck for 2 months. And the first one I'll hit on is the dead pedal. I know I made kind of a big deal about it in a couple of my videos. And for those who didn't catch that, there's a dead pedal on the truck. And I did not have that in my previous truck, in my Ram. And on the GM, the dead pedal, it sits proud of the gas pedal and the brake pedal. And so I immediately noticed it when I was driving the truck. You know, after you've driven a truck for a long time, you get used to it and then you switch over to a different truck. That was probably one of the biggest things that stood out to me initially, was that dead pedal for my left foot to rest on. And after driving the truck for 2 months, I will say I've gotten used to it. I really don't notice it anymore. Yes, it does sit proud of the gas pedal and the brake pedal. So personally, my preference would be to push it back maybe an inch or two. But I've gotten used to it, really not a big deal. Then as far as visibility goes, I had commented before that it seemed to me in the GMC here that there was a lot more visibility out the front compared to my Ram. And I measured it later on and it was really about the same. But I think what it is the dash up here in the front, the dash line is noticeably lower here in the GM. I would say by a good 1 to 2 inches. So I think it's kind of an illusion that you feel like you've got more visibility out the front just because the dash line, especially in the middle here, is quite a bit lower. But guys, I am really liking this truck a lot. I'm a huge fan of the 13.4-inch display for the infotainment system. The transmission, it is just buttery smooth. Really pleased with the 10-speed transmission so far. And I've had some people comment that the 6.6 with the 10-speed, or the 6-speed for that matter, is kind of a slug. And for me personally, I've got plenty of power. You know, when I'm driving the truck, I'm not doing burnouts or 0 to 60 runs. It feels very strong for me. In fact, you know, I came from the Ram 3500 with the Cummins, and that was the high output that had 420 horsepower and, you know, a little over 1,000 pound-feet of torque. So this one has 401 horsepower, but driving the gasser here in the GM, it actually feels like it accelerates quicker, even though the horsepower is slightly under. Of course, the truck weighs a little bit less. You know, part of that could be difference between a naturally aspirated and a turbocharged diesel engine, but I feel like I've got plenty of power here with the 6.6. I'm very satisfied with it. It's very responsive. In fact, I'll just mention that I was a little bit nervous switching platforms from the Ram to the GM. You know, over the last 20 years, I've had trucks from all three of the big brands. I started out 20 years ago with an F-150, and then I switched over to several Ram trucks in a row. And then in 2019, I bought a Chevy Silverado 3500 with the Duramax, and it had the updated engine and transmission with the higher output. But it was an outgoing model year at the time. They had just redesigned it, so I bought the 2019, the older style. And you know, after a month or two into ownership of that truck, I had some pretty big regrets. And to be fair, again, that truck was, you know, an outgoing model at the time, and so it had some dated technology inside of it. But there were a lot of things that I really missed with that truck compared to the Ram trucks that I had prior. Whereas this go round, you know, after going from that Chevy to back to Ram and now back to GM with this GMC Sierra, I have no regrets whatsoever. After 2 months of owning this truck, I am just absolutely pleased with how it handles, how it drives, with everything from the infotainment system to the interface with the truck. I'm really, really pleased with the truck overall. Definitely would make the same decision again, and just really consider myself blessed and thankful to be able to own it. And so if you're on the fence, you know, coming from Ram or even Ford for that matter, and you're thinking about switching over to the GM platform with the GMC or a Chevrolet, I would not hesitate to do it again. I mean, I think GM got so many things right on this current generation of trucks, and so I'm just really pleased with it. Anyways, guys, I've got another about 45 miles to go till I get to my destination. So I'll check in with you when I fill up, and we'll check the final MPG results. Now guys, I've been told that the experts say you need to wait 30 seconds and then fill up again, but I'm here to tell you today that you actually need to wait 1 second per every gallon of your fuel tank size. And so I've got a 36-gallon fuel tank, so we're gonna be waiting 36 seconds to make sure we're topped off. All right, it is freezing out there, but as you can see, it took 11.669 gallons, and then our trip here that I reset at the beginning is 194.2 miles. So we're gonna go down here, 194.2 miles divided by 11.669, and wow, 16.64, so 16.6 MPG. The trip computer on the truck there shows 16.1. I mean, that's pretty close, but guys, I gotta say, I am very pleased with that number, 16.6 MPG. I mean, this is a big, heavy truck, you know, 7,500 pounds. It sits high off the ground, gas engine. I mean, I am very pleased with that 16.6 MPG. Remember, the last time I did this was a longer run when the truck was brand new, not broken in. We've got a tonneau cover on the back now. The first oil change has occurred, and you know, this was a pretty average run. There was some grade there at the end, but 16.6, I'm very happy with that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'm actually on my way to pick up the RV, the travel trailer that I ordered. And so the next video is going to be my first tow, and then I'll also do an MPG towing the travel trailer. So if you're not subscribed already, definitely hit that subscribe button. And as always, thanks for watching.